Bent by us all on improving operational matters, including retaining the services of an external PR consultant. Additional crew have joined who want to get on with the job of saving lives, and as a voluntary organisation we have all moved on. But in correspondence that we've seen, those four former presidents of the Lions Club have repeatedly tried to change the mind of the charity's trustees to get them to engage with this inquiry for their reason, they say, to clear the air, but those have all been rejected. If they don't change their mind, Colin Gervais-Brazier says he will lead a panel of 3 people with experience of aviation, legal and charity experience who will make a judgment call based on the information they have. So this is very well likely not be the end of the story.
Indeed. Hamish, thank you.
Changes to the way 2/3 of people pay their tax in Jersey have been approved in the State's Assembly. The new legislation will see people who currently pay their tax based on their previous year's earnings move to a current year basis.
Ministers say the changes proposed at the end of last year will modernise the current system and help people negatively affected by the pandemic.
Well, Caroline Lewis is in the Royal Square now. Caroline, what do these changes mean?
Well, they are big changes and a little bit confusing, so bear with me. Firstly, they only affect people who were employed and paying tax prior to 2006. With that view, you probably pay your tax in arrears, which means you pay based on the previous year's earnings. Well, this can be problematic if someone's circumstances changes over those 12 months, and for a lot of people in the last year, that has happened. And they can end up with a tax bill they can't afford. So to try and overhaul the current system, those people are now being made to pay tax, to move to pay tax on a current year basis, so pay as you earn, but that's left a big gap as all those thousands of people haven't paid the year 2019, and that money now needs to be recouped. So what happens next? Well, you've got 2 options if you now owe the government money. The first is to pay it off bit by bit over the next 20 years. Or you can choose how much and how often you pay, but the amount has to be cleared by 2041. Or you can choose to pay it off in a lump sum when you retire, but you'll have to prove that you have the means to do so. Well, these new reforms have already drawn criticism, and questions have been raised about what happens when couples get divorced. In Jersey, currently, men are still responsible for their wives' tax affairs. And while there are moves to change that, it's left questions about whether men will end up being lumped with the bill. Well, to explain a bit more, I'm joined by family lawyer Barbara Collette now. Barbara, is this something that people need to be concerned about?
Well, yes and no. When people are going through divorce, they have to disclose all their assets and their income and their liabilities, their debts, and that would include tax debts as well. And if there are complications on whether or not tax allowances should be transferred between parties, or whether or not there's a question as to who owes the money, then those matters can all be determined within the divorce proceedings.
Well, this is the first move towards independent taxation. Why do we need to see that change?
Well, that's a really, really important matter. People ought to be able to be independent and be autonomous, and the people really who aren't are married women. Single women are, and single men are, and married men are, but married women aren't. It relates to tax, and it also relates to other matters, such as a married woman cannot change her name without her husband's consent, and a married woman can't have a domicile of choice in Jersey. So there are several ways in which married women are not treated equally.
Just quickly off the back of that, if people are concerned, where can they find help?
Well, it depends on what the concern is. If it's a financial concern, then clearly you speak to a financial advisor or an accountant in relation to the tax issues. And if you are going through divorce or feel that a divorce might be on the cards, then you need to speak to a family lawyer.
Thank you ever so much, Barbara. Well, big changes on the horizon, but don't worry too much about making a decision now, because you've got until the 30th of September 2024 to decide how you want to pay that money back.
Okay, Caroline, thanks for the update.
And meanwhile, also on the agenda in Jersey states today, tougher laws to crack down on domestic abuse could be brought in Jersey later this year. The Home Affairs Minister, Constable Len Norman, said it would recognise domestic abuse as more damaging and complex than simple violence and would offer victims the strongest protection. It'll also recognise controlling and coercive behaviour as an offence. A domestic abuse register, similar to a sex offenders register, could also be created. Now, as the UK marks exactly 1 year since it locked down, let's take a look at the latest coronavirus figures here. In Jersey, 1 new case has been identified. That was somebody arriving at the border. That means there are now 4 active cases, and one of them is a patient in the hospital. In Guernsey, no change, still just 1 active case, and that is a person being treated at Princess Elizabeth Hospital.
University students from Guernsey can have their COVID vaccine at home or in the UK. They'll be entitled to the jab wherever they are once their age group opens up, but must be registered with a GP. Students can have their first dose in the bailiwick and their second wherever they are studying. Almost £80 million was paid to people in Jersey through the island's co-funded payroll scheme between March and August this year. More than 16,000 people who work for more than 3,000 businesses received those payments. And Guernsey's Aurigny Airline has added extra flights to and from Alderney to keep up with demand for travel restrictions easing. Bookings have soared with no limitations on the internal travel within the bailiwick after Guernsey moved into stage 3 of its lockdown exit yesterday.
Next tonight, another chapter in the seemingly never-ending saga of the future of secondary education in Guernsey.
To say this is a prickly topic is an understatement. It's due to be debated this week, but politicians can't even agree on what to debate.
The Education Department wants to push ahead with its plans, but teaching unions say they want more clarity. Kate Prout explains.
It's the subject that rumbles on and on, what the future of education in Guernsey will look like. Up for debate this week is how the school system will look in the future. The latest proposal, 3 11 to 16 schools, plus a separate post-16 campus, including a 6th form on the Guernsey Institute site.
We've had COVID, we've had Brexit, we're in straitened circumstances. The landscape has completely changed, and we need to start getting a little bit decisive about this matter now. So this committee wants to present all the work as it's been presented, as we've done our research, and put it in a policy letter as a once-and-for-all policy letter to make some decisions to take this forward.
In an unusual step, the states issued a press release calling for any amendments to the policy to be rejected, a call that the teaching unions say is up for debate.
What the National Education Union is really hoping for is that we will get much more information going forwards about the proposals that the Committee for ESC are making about their 3 school models. We really want the engagement to be worthwhile and meaningful, and we think that can really only happen if the members of our union are given enough information about it in advance of any consultation.
After years of consultation and public spending, many just want transparency and firm decisions from the Education Department.
I think that if we don't publish the results of the review, there will be likely to be delays because of that lack of confidence and a feeling of a lack of transparency. And once the details start to come out, which won't be perfect because no model is perfect, people will start to ask questions and if they must answer it in the form of a like-for-like comparison. I am really concerned that will lead to further delay, and that's ultimately what I'm trying to avoid, so that we can get this resolved once and for all.
After a difficult year for Guernsey's economy and a changing landscape, the children of the island are key to its future. All concerned will be hoping the debating will end and action taken sooner rather than later. Kate Prout, ITV News.
Coming up in 15 minutes, it's the ITV Evening News. Here's Mary with the national headlines.
Coming up on the programme, the Queen leads the tributes as the nation remembers those lives lost in the COVID pandemic. National silence marked a year since the start of the first lockdown. The Queen said it's a time to reflect, but also to look to a brighter future. Also ahead, more horrific tales of housing horrors as tenants tell us yesterday's shocking report from Croydon is not a one-off. That's the 10-year-old who spent a year in his tent and now wants others to join him. All that and more at 6:30. Join me then. Back here though, and almost a year after Jersey went into lockdown for the first time, charities are still feeling the impact. Many lost thousands of pounds in fundraising and had to either adapt their services or stop them altogether.
Well, today marks 50 years since the formation of the Association of Jersey Charities. The group now has more than 300 members, and while they're looking to the future, there's still concern about their survival. Holly Goodall has more.
This time last year, the beach was full of runners, taking part in one of the last charity events before the pandemic. But this year, Phillips Footprints has had to postpone its Seymour Sprint due to restrictions. And with limited fundraising opportunities, the charity's seen its income slashed in half.
Things like the funding for training for maternity we haven't been able to do because you can't get people over to Jersey to take the courses. I think that this year's still going to be a difficult year for lots of reasons. Obviously, events is one thing, but also for people who are still struggling financially, they're not going to have the means to donate where they might have done in the past.
In a survey last year, the Jersey Community Partnership found charities suffered an average 55% loss of funding, and at the same time had seen an increase of 22% in demand for their services. Charity shops were among the worst affected, with Jersey Hospice losing around £20,000 a week. And whilst the zoo was closed to visitors, the Durrell Trust saw an 80% loss of its income. But charities adapted, making events like the Durrell Dash virtual and moving fundraising online, and the support of islanders followed. Services too have continued where they were needed most, like for the charity Headway, which supports people with a brain injury.
We've seen how people have become isolated, but what we've done is we've turned it around and we've kept in touch with them through regular phone calls, and our members have really appreciated that. In between the lockdowns, we've also been able to take up with our physical therapy sessions again, the exercise classes. When we were able to, we would go out for walks, or maybe the class would take part inside. And we're now looking forward to being able to do these things again.
Looking forward is exactly what the Association of Jersey Charities has been doing in a webinar today, as part of the celebration of its 50th anniversary. They hope the collaboration and innovation brought about by the pandemic will help the charity sector develop further.
When they mesh together, they are such a powerful force in our community, and I really hope that 2021 is the year when they're recognised for the important part they play.
A fundraising partnership with Jersey Finance hopes to raise £60,000 for Jersey charities later this year, to help the community give back to the vast array of charities which support this island. Well, as you heard in my report, their charities are cautiously optimistic about the future, and as restrictions continue to lift, things like fundraising events and services will start to look more normal. But we're not out of the woods just yet. Well, I'm now joined by Rachel French from the Jersey Community Partnership, which is an independent organisation which supports the charity sector. Thanks for joining me, Rachel. Well, you carried out this rather bleak survey of charities last year. Where are we at now? Have things improved for them?
I'm not sure any charitable organisation would say things have improved. Certainly, COVID is here to stay, and in some respects, we are still at the crisis point as we were a year ago. So what we now need to look at is that longer-term recovery period. As you say, we're not out of the woods yet, and how we can look to the future and make sure we are still here many years to come.
I've been hearing about how charities have been innovative and adapted over the last year. Is that new way of working here to stay, do you think?
We have seen some fantastic innovation across fundraising events and service delivery, and I think those charities that take those learnings and the positives, those new ways of working will stand charities in fantastic stead for the future. What have we learnt? Things that haven't worked so well, we drop. We really take those positive learnings and, as I say, look to the future.
And it has been a tough period, hasn't it? But what has the community response been like? Have they stepped up to support their charities?
Absolutely. Jersey community has been fantastic. We've seen thousands of voluntary hours given and corporates giving their time and expertise to help the community. The government has made funds available from dormant bank accounts that charities can apply to, and grant makers have really stepped up and reduced the time it takes to get the money to those charities and the communities that need it most. So yes, it's been a fantastic response, but we are not there yet. As I said, we are still in crisis, and as we look to the future, if there is anything that people can give, time, money, expertise, please give what you can.
Great, thanks Rachel. Well, as I said, 50 years on since charities first came together as the Association of Jersey Charities, and that spirit of working together couldn't be more important. Yes, the pandemic has been a setback, but it's also highlighted just how important charities are to Islanders.
Absolutely. Holly, thanks very much. In other news, Cineworld says it will reopen in Jersey when the government allows. The company's already announced plans to reopen its cinemas in the UK in May. Jersey's, which is the only cinema in the island, was closed when the lockdown first started last year. And in sport, the British and Irish Lions won't be using Jersey as a training base this summer. In a surprise U-turn, the famous rugby side confirmed they will tour South Africa in July. It's a blow for Jersey, as the island was being considered as a base for the players if games were played in the UK.
Work is underway to create a haven for bees as well as other pollinators and wildlife in Jersey. The land in St Saviour was gifted to the Jersey Beekeepers Association by one of the island's bee experts.
Yes, Bob Hogg wants to transform the land from what's been described as a horticultural dump into a dream home for wildlife. Sophie Dawson went to see why.
It may not look like much, but this slice of nature is a Garden of Eden for local wildlife. And it's all down to this man.
This isn't a field. You know, it looks like a field, but it's not. It's a rubbish dump. And once I got used to it and started thinking about it, I thought this is ideal, because you can use this as an illustration. Now, I'm involved with the Channel Island Pollinator Group, and they want to encourage people to think about the pollinators. Brambles, wonderful for pollinators, not only for the flowers, but some bees put their nests inside the stems. Rubbish, banks and things like that, absolutely perfect for bees. And ponds, everybody loves ponds.
Day by day, Bob's dream is becoming a reality. Already the team here have started assessing the lay of this wild land and have begun seeding a bee field and an orchard on site. Pollinator animals such as bees are vital to food production and biodiversity. Globally, there is evidence that shows pollinators are in decline due to a loss of habitat and chemical misuse. But this project hopes to rewild areas like this, putting the power back in the hands of the pollinators. Planning permission for this patch of nature was granted at the end of last year. It was agreed the Jersey Beekeepers Association could use this otherwise unused piece of land to build an educational centre where people can learn more about bees and other pollinators.
Beekeeping is something we'd like to introduce new people to all the time, and to introduce new people you have to give them education. And one thing we're lacking and have been lacking is a central location to come to. And we're really hoping that when we get to this building completed, it will attract all sorts of new people into beekeeping.
As well as giving people an education, it's also a chance for nature to bounce back from the brink and thrive in this man-made microcosm. Sophie Dawson, ITV News.
Well, lovely project, and really important to protect our bees, especially with the Asian hornets. We keep hearing about what a threat they are.
Yeah, definitely. Safeguard the bees. It's been a beautiful day for getting back to nature. Pretty much wall-to-wall sunshine. Let's see what the rest of the week has in store. Here's Sophie with the forecast.
Making the most of the day. ITV Channel Islands weather. Sponsored by Shaw. Mobile, broadband and home phone.
Well, what a beautiful spring day today. In fact, the UV index managed to touch a 5 with temperatures certainly in double figures. Really stunning conditions out there. The same can't be said for tomorrow, though. We've got a bank of cloud that's going to be heading towards us, and by tomorrow night we're likely to see some slightly patchy light rain and drizzle, and it does turn pretty unsettled until Saturday with further bouts of rainfall. So happy farmers and gardeners out there, I suspect. But certainly tonight we start to see some cloud form, but ahead of that, temperatures probably falling away to their lowest, around 5 to 7 degrees, and a gentle breeze coming in from the south. Then tomorrow, slightly cloudy from time to time. There will be some sunny spells as well. And when we get those sunny periods, The UV index could easily climb to a 4, but feeling a touch fresher. We're looking at highs tomorrow somewhere around 11 or 12 degrees due to the lack of sunshine and that wet weather trying to creep into the area as we head through the latter part of the day and early evening. On the water, the sea state turns to moderate. Your times of high water tomorrow around about 2 to 3 o'clock in the early hours, and the sea temperature is 8.8 degrees. Now, taking a look, you can see that the mild air sweeps through courtesy of that jet stream, and it is replaced by slightly fresher conditions as we head towards Friday, along with the unsettled conditions. So we've got that wet weather arriving tomorrow night, continuing into Thursday and Friday, and as a result, you can see those temperatures just slipping away a fraction. Still within the reams of average, but just feeling a little bit fresher out there. The weekend, though, looks to be dry and sunny. Bye for now.
ITV Channel Islands weather, sponsored by Shore.
And that's the news and weather in the Channel Islands. The ITV evening news is next, but we're leaving you tonight with views from 4 locations across our island.
Yes, starting in Alderney, this is the time of year that the sun is setting as our programme ends, and the views are just too good not to share.
Now, this is the scene from over the boats in Jersey's Elizabeth Marina as the sun goes down behind the beautiful Elizabeth Castle.
Yeah, and here's how it's looking at Fort Grey in Guernsey. A great reminder, especially after so many difficult months, of how lucky we all are to live with this on our doorstep.
Another reminder here in Sark, the view from Apercury Common, I think you say. We can see Jessie there and Herm, the Bailiwick Bubble, all in one for you. Nature at its best. Okay, that's it from us tonight. Do have a lovely evening. Take care of yourselves and good night.